Welcome to March to the Pod, presented by Eternal Roofing. We are your consistent source for Sam Houston athletics. Today, the Cats should get their first win of the season this week. If they don't, then what do we do? We're going to preview the Cats game against Kennesaw State, and we're going to predict where the men's and women's basketball teams finish in Conference USA. By we, I mean Ben. With season opening games on the horizon. I'm your host, Cory Hogue, the non-FBS insider at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Find me on your favorite social media channels at Cory Hogue Sports. I'm joined by the creator and manager of Sports of SHSU on Twitter and Instagram, the chief operating officer of the Cat Fund and proud Bearcat alum, Ben Sorrells. Ben, if the Cats don't win this week, I'm thinking there could be enough things thrown to need some general contracting and probably roofing help for the new facility there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we'll take any new facility we can get, but yeah, I mean, I don't think people are going to be very happy. People might be busting down walls. I know that's kind of been an ongoing joke, but yeah, this is the one you have to win, no matter what. This is your FCS game, kind of your bye game. So, yeah, got to win it. I think we will. I'm not too worried, but you just never know with this team. And yeah, Eternal Roofing is definitely the place to go in case there is a loss and you put your hip through a wall, like Cory says.
Yeah, hey, look, if things go south this weekend and things get damaged in the new facility, the new clubhouse they've got over there, call Eternal Roofing. They can do your general contracting, they can do your molding, they can do shelf work, they can repair your roof if you needed. Honestly, they can do anything, and hopefully they're not needed at the actual Sam Houston University, but Taylor and his crew would be more than happy to help you throughout Houston, the Hill Country, and the state of Texas. They, like we said before, general contracting work. They can paint the interior if you need it. Just think of all the possibilities of somebody getting angry, putting a helmet through a wall. Now we got to repair the wall. We got to paint it. We got to get their crown molding and so much to it. Just call the professionals. Call Eternal Roofing. Get a hold of them. In the Montgomery area, you got 936-215-8539. In the Hill Country, 830-251-5673. And if you want to reach them by email, contact Taylor at eternalroofingtx.com. But seriously, Ben, I hate to say this, but I don't think a win is a given this week. I honestly believe that there is a chance this goes really far south.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a given. It's a game you should win, but it's not a game you can just kind of roll over and expect to win. This isn't Oklahoma Panhandle State or whoever we played back in like 2018 and won by 80. Kennesaw, I mean, their record's 2-5. Both of those wins coming against non-Division I or FCS teams or FBS teams, but they've played some good FCS teams really, really close, some top 10 FCS teams. So it's a team that even though they are redshirting a couple guys, they've still got some talent. And if you show up, you'll win. If you don't, then it could get really bad. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
So I released a story this week you may have seen on TexasFootball.com about the increase in fee from $5,000 to $5 million. But within there was more to that. And it really gained a lot of traction because the schools I spoke with, the administrators, the presidents, the athletic directors, every one of them mentioned needing to make sure they're ready for FBS, right? And so this last week we got into, with our account on social media, got into a little bit of some back and forth with, it was rushed, right? And so I don't think people understand when I say this move was rushed, exactly what I mean by that. In some ways, the planning for it was rushed. But what they rushed is they're making the move and now trying to catch up, Ben, instead of like these other schools are talking about catching up, i.e. facilities, right? How much work is being done on that they're trying to catch up at Sam Houston now? Facilities is one. infrastructure, and I'm talking infrastructure in your athletic department, from your communications, all of your staff, your strength and conditioning. There's so many parts and layers to this. And so, Ben, I got to ask you, some of that seemed like it wasn't direct. At no point did any of them mention Sam Houston, but some of that seemed to be, looking at it from this perspective, some shots at Sam Houston. Because when I say it was rushed, you don't have the facilities. And I think my big question for you here, Ben, let me go ahead and get to that, and then I'll let you give your thoughts about it. My big question is, should Sam Houston have taken the facilities ready before the jump? And if so, is it actually harming them now to have made the jump and now trying to catch up facilities? Because it's really, really hard to raise money when the football team is not doing as well as expected.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and I've got a couple opinions. If this was 5 years ago, I definitely would have said that we probably should have waited a couple more years, got the facilities, the funding, everything internally put together, and in a spot to where they could compete right away. But with the new rules, especially with the $5 million fee moving up to the FBS, scholarship limit, or have to meet scholarship requirements and everything like that, and with the way college realignment is gone, I think you had to make the move when you did. And I know a lot of people at Sam Houston, and Casey Keeler's one of them, thinks there's going to be kind of a top tier FBS, kind of a G5, I don't know, league kind of thing, and then an FCS league, something like that. And so you're able to get your foot in the door and you're not in that FCS league or that third tier of football. And so overall, I think it was the right move. I do think it was a little rushed. Like you said, I think you had to make the move. Were you 100% ready? I don't think so. But if you didn't make the move now, I don't know if you ever make the move at all, and you might be stuck in that kind of third realm or tier of college football. So there's a lot that goes into it. I think the move was the right move. I think it's going to take a couple of years to get everything in place, but was the right decision. There's just going to be some growing pains.
Boy, a couple of comments about that. Number one, I'm not so certain that FCS will be the third tier. I'm thinking, in my opinion, I think it's far more likely that the Power Five break off and do their own thing. Because when you're looking Power Five, and in that piece, and I wrote it, but I do recommend you go read it. There really is some interesting and some fascinating stuff that was said in there. And one of the athletic directors talked about budgets, FCS budgets, 14 million to 44 million, right? And then you've got Group of Five budgets. They run a little bit higher, but then astronomically higher are the Group Power Five budgets. The NCAA only sponsors one championship in football at Division I, and that's with the FCS. I think the Power Five break off. I think that maybe more than the Power Five. I think you're going to see them pull some more Group of Five teams up to try to make it a little bit of a deeper league, but I think they're going to pull some of them in. The ones that are left, I think they join with FCS, and it makes one big national title then from that range. And they're already separated money-wise, right? College football playoff is under a completely different finance structure than NCAA. No NCAA money goes to the CFP.
Yeah, and I mean, I can definitely see that too. I know Keeler's big on the kind of three-tier thing, and I know Boise State, I think their athletic director just came up with a relegation or tiered system with the FBS teams, to where the Power Five or Power Four, whatever you want to call them now, have their own thing, and then the Group of Five kind of has their other thing, and you can move up or down, and there's relegation. And so I know there's talk there. That's kind of what I feel like is going to happen, but you just never know. At this point, there could be 10 different tiers or realms or whatever you want to call it. You just never know. But for right now, I think Sam Houston moving was the right move. I think it was a little rushed, but you had to get in when you could. You didn't know if that invitation was going to come again. And yeah, it's going to be some growing pains. You just got to work through it.
I find it interesting you mentioned the $5 million entry fee. And that really seems like it would be a hindrance in a way for Sam Houston. The problem I have with that is no one else I talked to said that's a problem. And so I'm wondering if Sam Houston really was in position to where they should have made that move. If that $5 million is not a problem for United Athletic Conference schools that know they're thinking of moving up, and it's a problem for you, I don't know then if you're actually ready to move up.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good point. I don't know if maybe they saw that on the horizon and that was why they made the jump. Maybe they would have done it anyway, but I wouldn't say we are just drowning in money at this point. I mean, it's a little thin, especially compared to Conference USA and other schools like us. So it could have been a deterrent. I'm not too sure, but yeah, you never know.
And the biggest problem is, and this is what Sam Houston's going to run into, because they're going to have to meet these standards too. Also, by the way, just for Sam Houston fans, effective immediately, no more attendance requirements, right? That's a big one to take away. A lot of schools were having hard times. Maybe that'll take away some of the fudging numbers that we see at some of these schools, right?
Yeah.
But, that is no longer a requirement. That's a positive move. What's not a positive move for schools like Sam Houston, if you're having money problems already, is you have to provide 90% of the scholarships, fund 90% of the scholarships in every sport across the board. And like one athletic director told me in that piece, he said, the problem isn't the $5 million fee. That's a one-time fee. It is $5 million. That's just one time. The problem is, and it's not the $6 million scholarship limit, because once they raise their football scholarships up, those 22, that gets them over that limit of the $6 million. So that's not a problem. But the problem is the Title IX portion of this, because when you add those 22 scholarships to football, you now have to add proportionally to every other sport. And that money, like he mentioned, this athletic director mentioned, that money is recurring. It is annual. It's not a one-time thing. And that's the part where I'm concerned about the future of Sam Houston there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the additional scholarships for football. I did some math and posted this a couple of weeks ago when all this came out. I think we were at $6.9 million in scholarships, so we're good there. Not sure what the percentage we're at is. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. And with the additional football scholarships comes beach volleyball, which is going to be in place for the 2025 season, I believe it is. So yeah, definitely some more things to look out for. I think we're good on the attendance requirements now. Don't have to worry about that. Don't have to worry about a $5 million transition fee. We're good there. We're over the $6 million mark, but are we at 90%? And what does that look like going forward? I think that's the big one.
A lot of schools have instituted beach volleyball. And I think that's because that is an easy one to institute to meet your Title IX requirements. And it's cheap, right? It requires a volleyball. You dig up some dirt, turn it into sand, right? Like there's not a lot of expenses to that.
Right. Yeah. And it looks like it's going to move pretty quickly. I mean, it got announced, I think, even less than a year ago, and we're going to be playing in 2 years. So, I mean, you go from announcing it to playing in about 2, maybe 3 years. It's pretty quick. And I don't know, maybe it's a sport we can be good at. I don't really know much about the beach volleyball area, but I think it could be a fun thing to add to the athletic program and see where it goes.
Damn it, Ben. I tell people all the time, there's only one thing I know in life: sports. And a little bit of politics, but that's more a hobby. What I really know is sports. So Houston Christian's pretty good at beach volleyball. All right, they have a good beach volleyball program. They got a girl, Daniel Okeke, from Wichita Falls area. She was at a private school at Christ Academy. She went down there, got a full ride to play at the Houston Christian. That's one of the better volleyball schools. In fact, beach volleyball is becoming a really big sport. You're finding it on the TV now. The Pac-12, obviously, that makes sense, right? But the Pac-12 is starting to get challenged by some of these other conferences. I think you're going to see more and more of that because, like I said, it's an easy sport. It doesn't take a lot of facilities. It doesn't take a lot of infrastructure. It takes a volleyball and some players, and you put them out there on the beach volleyball. You're putting them on sand. There isn't the ton of expense and everything that comes with that a lot of times.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not sure the talent area in the Houston area, but I mean, being located near Houston, I imagine I know there's a lot of volleyball talent. I would assume there's a lot of beach volleyball talent too. And not every team has a beach volleyball team. So maybe, I know you said Houston Christian has a team, but maybe we can be another one of the teams here and kind of corner that market. And yeah, it'll be fun. You never know what to expect with it. I think it's going to be interesting.
And here's where I come in, giving you more of this useless information I have in my brain. Yes, Texas is a big time volleyball place, and a lot of that volleyball. There are volleyball players that would rather play beach volleyball than go on the hardwood. And in fact, you look professionally speaking, if that's really what they want to do, I think there's a better chance of being professional beach volleyball player than there is of being a professional hardwood volleyball player. You don't see that all the time. They're not making the money like they do in beach volleyball. So yeah, there are things that can be used. And when you're talking recruiting base, the state of Texas, man, if you need volleyball, you need softball, you need football, serious. This state is filled with talent in those areas.
It is, and whatever you need. I know we've got great volleyball talent. You bring up the beach side. I mean, beach volleyball, I feel like it's always been in the Olympics. I feel like it's always been on TV to some capacity more than regular volleyball. So
yeah,
there's definitely a market for it. Hopefully we can tap into it.
Well, I think that was a very good conversation to open this podcast. I hope people learned something out of that.
Yep.
Yeah, they may not have. Anyway.
Something else to complain about, probably.
Listen, I have fans, Ben. And sometimes my fans have been increasing in numbers. And in fact, this week, some of my fans are increasing in greater numbers than I even wanted them to. So, by all means, fans like to say good and bad things. We accept all of them. And if you don't like me, I still appreciate you listening. Anyhow, we are a podcast on the Republic of Football Network and an extension of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Please like and subscribe to the podcast and follow us on various social media channels, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at March to the Pod. That's March, the number 2, the pod, all one word. And if you're watching on the Dave Campbell's YouTube page, fine hello to you today. We're not starting with football again this week, Ben, because it's basketball season, man. We're about to get that fired up. These teams are coming in, and with the football, with the Cats playing Kennesaw State, this is a great time to kind of break into both the men's and women's programs and give a breakdown and a preview and prediction for where you think they'll stay in Conference USA. And so let's begin with men's basketball, who had a pretty high-profile scrimmage there the other day at North Texas.
Yeah, it was another good scrimmage, and I think we even said last week after they beat Oral Roberts by 20, you can't read into it too much. This time they lose by 10. Can't really read too much into it as well. But yeah, North Texas, honestly, maybe top 5 mid-major program in the country the last couple of years, winning the NIT last year, making some tournament runs, and new team there at UNT, new team for us as well. But yeah, it looked good. Was in the game the entire time. I think was a 1-possession game up until about 7 or 8 minutes left, and UNT kind of pulled away. I think the difference was UNT was 9 of 24 from 3, and we were 5 of 21. And so that's where the difference comes in. But can't read into it too much. I think 13 guys got in and saw at least 5+ minutes, which is good. Your rotation's probably going to be 8 or 9 players in a regular game. So you got to see everybody get some action. But yeah, really excited. About a week away, or a little less than a week away at this point, from the opener at Pacific. So yeah, it's about that time, and scrimmages and exhibitions are done.
Okay, so you mentioned the NIT, and I think that's something we need to spend a minute talking about now, because last week they took away the automatic bids if you win your league for the NIT, and it almost feels, Ben, that was a way of them just giving one gigantic middle finger to the mid-major programs.
Yes, and I feel like it's almost a sign of things to come with the actual NCAA tournament. Are we going to start taking away auto bids for the smaller conferences if you win your regular season or conference tournament. So yeah, I feel like it's just starting with the NIT and might be a trickle down effect to the NCAA tournament here soon enough. But yeah, it's horrible. I mean, you're going to get like a 14-18 Texas Tech team based on this new seeding system and where they're putting teams in, or like a 15-17 NC State instead of maybe like a Sam Houston last year that went 26-5 or whatever they did. So yeah, it's a real shame, and I unfortunately think it's a sign of things to come.
You hit on it. You really did, because why would they start this with NIT, and why would they do this with the NIT if the ultimate plan was not to take away automatic seeding from the big dance? See, here's what you got to do. You got to throw it out there now. And a lot of times, look, I told you my hobby is politics. Believe it or not, politics and sports really does go together a whole lot when it comes to this. So the NCAA, the NIT, they're big on politics. They know this political game. So what you do is you put this out now. You do it for the NIT. You get the little guys complaining, everybody's heard it. So now when you do it for the NCAA, you're going to get a reaction, but it's already going to be a little muted because we've already seen it happen. So why should we care? Maybe this is one of those times we shouldn't just let them get by with it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of big, even basketball people, like media. I know the Jeff Goodmans, John Rothsteins. I think a lot of people like that even didn't like it. I don't think I've seen a person that does like it. So maybe enough pushback will result in maybe a change of some sort. I don't know if that happens. The NCAA is kind of stuck in their ways and not very good at what they do. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I unfortunately do agree with you that it's probably going to trickle down to the big tournament.
It's honestly, it's kind of a trickle up.
Yeah,
right?
trickle. That's not the saying, but it works here.
Even though NIT is the oldest tournament, the March Madness, of course, is bigger. So look, if you're tuning in today, you're getting some good sports talk that's not just related to the Cats, just kind of sports in general. But we're going to get back to the Cats and Chris Mudge and his program here. Where do you see? Kind of give us a preview. We've talked about the team the last few weeks. So maybe give us a little more of a preview and a prediction. Where do you think they slot in Conference USA?
Yeah, I think they were predicted 6th in the preseason poll, but talking to the staff a little bit, I mean, and just kind of looking around, I feel like it's a wide open league, really wide open. And so pick 6th, I'm going to go ahead and pick them to be 3rd. Might be a little ambitious, but this is a team that won the WAC regular season last year, won 25 games. You return about half your scoring, which is a lot. In this day and age, you've got some great size. I think ultimately what this year is going to depend on is guard play. I think you've got really good play at forward. I think you've got some really good size. But JD Ray coming off a knee injury and then bringing in some transfers behind him at the guard spot. That's what I'm a little worried about, is our depth there. But this isn't an incredibly strong conference. New Mexico State, which is a perennial powerhouse, coming off a year where I think we all know what happened there and completely rehauling that team under Coach Hooten. There's some other teams like Jacksonville State and FIU that traditionally haven't done very well. So my top 3, I'm thinking it's probably Liberty, Louisiana Tech, and Sam Houston. But like I said, this is a wide open league from what I've heard and what I've seen, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Talk about guard play and depth. They have depth. I think we talk about it with football too, quality depth. And I think that, quality depth is something you'll see play out against the North Texas because they've built that quality depth over time. And Mudge is still trying to get there. But when you look at what they brought in and also I think it's important to note that coaches the first, especially preseason, but then even the first 8 or 10 games until you really get close to conference, they don't nail down their rotation a lot of times. You're really trying to figure out your team the first third of the season, who you have, where they slot, who you can trust in big moments, who you can play at times in the first half. There's so many different areas to it. And so that rotation is going to get pared down from a 13 to about an 8 or 9. If you're lucky, a 10. But there's a name I kept seeing again pop up. We talked about him last week. Davon Barnes might be the difference maker, the key, kind of like, oh man, his name just slipped my head.
For us,
Yeah,
Savion Flag, Quay Grant.
Quay Grant.
Yeah.
Kind of like Quay Grant, who came in as a transfer and just took over, and he had this ability to do things that most people can't do on the basketball floor. I feel like Davon Barnes is in that same mold.
He definitely is, and it's interesting you brought that up, and I kind of forgotten about this, but the last 2 years, this team has kind of been centered around a star transfer that they've brought in. So 2 years ago, it was Savion Flag from A&M, and he was the first team all-conference guy. Last year, it was Quay Grant, and he was conference player of the year. And it was really him and Savion scoring 15 to 20 a game, and then you've got some nice supporting pieces. And so I think that's what Davon can do. It's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of live up to that transfer, high quality transfer that comes in. But yeah, and then going back to guard play, I think you've got pieces there. They're just not they're not proven yet at this level. Marcus Boykin did incredible at the D2 level. We'll see what he can do at this level. I think he can be good. I think he showed some good things at North Texas. Bryce Cook hasn't played in a couple of years. So the depth there could be a little concerning. I think it could be fine. But yeah, Davon Barnes could be that guy that we've had the last 2 years, like Savion and Quay.
And don't just, I don't know, I'm going to sound like a defender here, but I'm going to tell you what I have found in my time covering D2 basketball and in D1 comparison. There is not a lot of difference in the guard play between Division I and Division II. Where you see the biggest difference is in the forwards in the front court. There's just not enough 6'8", 6'10" dominant big guys to get down into D2. And now when they do, they end up transferring pretty quick to a major program. So, yeah, it's going to take Marcus Boykin. It's going to take him some time. But also another thing, too, and I think this is also important when it comes to basketball. Ben, these sports, a lot of these, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, you play them all the time. They're these travel teams, these club teams, they know all these players. It's very likely that Marcus Boykin has already played against a lot of the people he's going to be seeing in this year during the season.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's a guy up from Barton College, somewhere in the Northeast, but with Conference USA being so wide-ranging, and you really pull guys from everywhere, I wouldn't be surprised if he has played people. But I'm really excited about him, and his stats, if you go back and look at it from Barton College, are almost identical to what Quay's were at West Texas A&M. Not that they're the same player, not to put that expectation on him, but I've heard good things about him. I think he looked pretty good at North Texas from what I saw. And yeah, if he can play well, I think that's going to really make you feel a lot better about that guard spot.
Quay was the same player for you guys that I saw for 3 years at West Texas A&M. He just was. That guy just had that ability. And so if Boykin can come in with that same way, yeah, definitely the Cats will be good. So you've got them a little higher than preseason predictions. What is your concerns about them maybe falling back to where they are actually predicted?
Yeah, I think the biggest things would be trying to find scoring. You lost your top two scorers in Dante Powers and Quay Grant. And then you returned a lot of the scoring behind that, but can one or two of those guys elevate their game, go from maybe 5 or 6 points a game to 10 or 11 points a game? You've got Cam Hoofner, which helps a lot, but can he elevate and take another step? You've got Davon. He's probably going to be there, but you need Davon, Cam, and then probably two other guys that you can really rely on from a scoring standpoint, because you lose a lot of your scoring in Quay and Powers from last year. So can we have a couple guys like maybe a Damon Nicholas or Anthony Vachej step up and go from maybe 4 or 5 points a game to 9 or 10 points a game? I think that's going to be the biggest factor in what this season looks like. We've got to find a way to score points. It was even a struggle last year at times. So I think that's my biggest concern, is where the points come from at times.
Well, it's a lot of transfers. It's going to take some time for them to mesh. And so we're going to have to be patient early in the season and hope that they're hitting on all cylinders come conference time. In the meantime, Ben, why don't you go ahead and let people know about the Cat Fund, which has had work here recently pretty closely with the men's basketball program.
Yeah, we had our golf tournament about 2 weeks ago now, and we're getting close to signing some of our basketball athletes here in the next couple days or week or so, which is going to be really exciting. But yeah, you can sign up at cat-fund.com, become a member of our NIL collective, starting at as little as $10 a month up to $1,000 a month, and support these athletes through NIL deals, and also be able to have some perks on your end. So definitely exciting time to get involved with that at Cat Fund. And I'll also mention season tickets, mini plan tickets, and single game tickets for basketball are on sale. So if you're looking to support the basketball team, whether it be NIL or buying some tickets, those are definitely two ways to do it.
And we definitely recommend to do it. And how can people get involved with Cat Fund?
Yeah, cat-fund.com. We've got all of our membership tiers there. You can see the membership perks, kind of the pricing levels. That's definitely the place to go.
Yes. Get involved with Cat Fund. It's definitely something you want to do. And if you have somebody put a hole in your wall and you need it repaired, call the experts over at Eternal Roofing. Commercial and residential roofing and general contracting services throughout the Hill Country and the Houston area. They offer free detailed roof inspections, fast professional service, no high-pressure sales pitch, exceptional workmanship warranties. And Ben, the calendar has changed to November. We are in the month of November, so that means it's time to start putting up some extra decorations, and we know just the people to call.
Yeah, then that is Eternal Roofing for any Christmas light needs. Definitely the place to go. And it's most people are in Christmas mindset now that we're officially done with Halloween as of last night. I know my wife is one of them. Christmas tree got put up already. I don't know if I agree with it, but it's up. So yeah, if you're looking to put up decorations on the outside, put up some lights, definitely the place to call is Eternal Roofing for those Christmas lights.
I come from a very strict family that the tree does not go up till the day after Christmas or Thanksgiving. I mean, the tree goes up the day after Thanksgiving, right?
I was raised the same way. Yeah.
Then it stays down until it stays up till New Year's. You take it down on New Year's, right? Now I got married, and so I really don't have any control of it anyway. But now it stays up through Epiphany because I married a chaplain. And you know, and so she's got her divinity training, and so we have to go through Epiphany now. So honestly, I don't know that it really matters. The most important thing is if the holidays make you nicer to people, then go ahead and celebrate a holiday all year round, if you would please. And if you need Christmas lights, call Eternal Roofing. They can get them up. They'll get them up quickly for you, and they'll do it well. And they likely take them down. I highly doubt they leave them there. You can give them a call at 830-251-5673 in the Hill Country, or the Montgomery office number is 936-215-8539, or you can email Taylor at eternalroofingtx.com. Again, that's Taylor at eternalroofingtx.com. Okay, we talked about the men. We've talked about the men a lot. Let's give this women's basketball team some love. What is the preview? Kind of what should fans expect to see when they hit the floor?
Yeah, so I guess just looking at preseason ranking in the conference to start, they are picked dead last, I believe it is, which I thought was a little interesting. This is a team that I believe was 5th or 6th in the WAC 2 years ago, and 8th out of 13 teams last year, and these are very similar conferences. You do lose a lot. Probably your best player, Maddie Batista, who's now playing in Europe somewhere, so good for her, which is really awesome. But you do return 2 of your biggest veterans in Kaylee Jefferson and Sydney Kemp. And they were probably your second and third best players last year, which is really good. So you bring them back. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting team. I think this is kind of a middle, slightly below middle of the pack team, kind of how I had soccer and volleyball preseason. I'm thinking 6th or 7th is kind of reasonable. That's where they had been in the WAC the last couple of years. I really like some of the transfers they brought in. Diana Rosenthal is probably the biggest name coming from Prairie View. She's averaged 15 points a game over the last 3 years at Prairie View, so she can really fill it up. So you bring in her. Elena Houghton's another good one, had a really good year as a freshman at Hartford. So you've got some good pieces coming back in Kaylee and Sydney. Renee Smith is another. I think the biggest concern is size. Definitely a little undersized, especially compared to teams in Conference USA and even some of our teams in the past. So I think you bring back some good pieces, bring in some nice transfers, but size is probably the biggest concern. And I think it's probably a sixth, maybe seventh place team in my mind.
Hey, look, Raven Justice knows this, right? She knows what you do. If you don't have the size, you make them a transition team. You make
Yeah.
people run and make that size run with you.
And that's what that team has always done. They've scored a lot, really pushed the ball in transition, played at a really fast pace. And this has never really been a big team. It's not again this year. I think they're even a little smaller than what they usually are. But yeah, just look for some even more fast paced action. And that's kind of what they play into and creating some chaos. And yeah, I'm excited about this team. I think they've got some potential. I'm excited to see Kaylee Jefferson back for another year. She's been a star for about 3 or 4 years now. And I'm excited to see Diana Rosenthal and see what she can bring to the table, an elite scorer in the SWAC the last 3 years. And it's a really fun schedule, too. This is an awesome non-conference schedule they have as well, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second.
I do find it interesting that both the men's and women's team went just down the road to SWAC schools, Prairie View and Texas Southern, to pick what likely was the best player off of both teams. I mean, I understand people can get upset about that. But hey, if these players were happy at their schools, they probably wouldn't be in Huntsville right now.
Right, yeah, and I was thinking about that too. I wonder if Diana might kind of have that Quay or Savion effect, because I mean, I think she even scored 17 a game last year, which is really filling it up at the women's collegiate level. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Both teams kind of playing into poaching from the SWAC a little bit.
Yeah, and look, the SWAC basketball is not a bad level of basketball. So if you could score that, like Diana Rosenthal did last year, she's gonna be a really nice find for the team this season.
Right, and I wanted to hit on the schedule too. I know a big emphasis and kind of a pain point the last couple of years for men's and women's basketball is getting Division I home games in the non-conference. And the men, they've got a couple, but the women, let's go through this. I mean, they play HCU at home, they play UTSA at home, they get UTA at home, and they get UTRGV at home. Along with Florida A&M. So that's 4 Texas Division I schools you get at home along with Florida A&M. So really like to see that for our scheduling. Playing Division I teams in the state of Texas that are coming to your house. I think that's a really good sign for the future.
You know what I don't like?
What's that?
I don't like when you bring in D3 and NAIA schools on your schedules. I get
like
that you want the wins, but my goodness, Ben, at least get a little competition involved in it.
I don't like it either, but from where the schedule's been the last couple of years, especially on the men's side, it's a huge step forward. I mean, I feel like there's always going to be 1 or 2 for us, but definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, the men's team didn't even have a Division I home non-conference game last year. So it's a big step forward for the programs, and hopefully we can get it to where it's all Division I here pretty soon.
Well, yes, but even at that, Division I programs a lot of times still play these D3, and I get it. It's money games, it's easy wins. You get to play your depth and things like that. But Schreiner and Texas College, when I see that on the schedule, I automatically yawn at that point. And I understand they do have value for Sam Houston to play those. Like I said, you could play as many people as you dress that day as you're allowed, right? Like that's the whole purpose of it, or at least you hope you can at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of these games, Our Lady of the Lake, they played an exhibition on Friday actually, and we actually lost to Our Lady of the Lake last year at home in an exhibition. So hopefully for a little revenge there. I know that was kind of a weird game. We were like almost a 500 team last year, and you lose to Our Lady of the Lake. No disrespect to them, but maybe a little revenge in this Friday's exhibition game.
Well, that will definitely add a little bit more intrigue to the exhibition game. It's going to be it's funny because when you say that Our Lady of the Lake team was 15-13 last year.
Yeah. It was kind of, and I think it was the last second 3. It was kind of weird. But yeah, hopefully we can win that one. I think we will. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, they were a kind of a bottom Sooner Athletic Conference team last year. So hopefully, get that exhibition win. It's not always easy. You don't see NAI teams beat D1s often. You do see them beat D2s quite a bit because NAI has plenty of talent as well. But maybe that'll get them to focus a little bit more, because that's another thing too, right? Like, oh, it's Our Lady of the Lake. Haha, they're coming in. Look, they're coming in with one desire, and that's to win the game.
And it's always going to be their Super Bowl. Whatever team's coming in, if you're D2 or D3, if it's a money game, it's their Super Bowl. And we saw it the other night with Louisville, not very good right now, but they lost to Kentucky Wesleyan, which I think was picked 8th in their Division II conference. And so you never know with these games. You got to show up. I mean, like we said with football, same thing with basketball. You got to show up even though it's a quote unquote inferior opponent.
Look, Andre Cook took St. Edwards the other night into Texas, was leading at the half. People were throwing the whole season away on Rodney Terry, and I was like, guys, this is a decent Lone Star Conference team, right? Like they're towards the top of the Lone Star Conference on the men's side, so it's not a bad Division II team. And the depth will play out. Like, it's okay. This happens. And it happened. Right, like just like I said it was going to do, Texas came out. Texas took control in the second half. Their depth, their height, they used it to their advantage. But it is a shock to your system when you realize some of these teams at lower levels can come up and punch you in the mouth, and you better be ready to punch back.
Yeah, they can come up and punch you in the mouth, and they will if you're not careful, that's for sure.
They certainly will. You know who never punches anyone in the mouth?
Hopefully not Eternal Roofing.
No, Taylor Andrews wouldn't do any of that. He is way too nice to be punching people in the mouth, and neither would his workers at Eternal Roofing. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. Look, they can install, repair roof. We've talked about the roofing. Obviously, it's in the name. We've talked about general contracting. It's really important to keep mentioning the quality of materials that they use. They use CertainTeed shingles, which are known to have their weather resistance, and it's just exceptional. They last forever. That's the great thing. And then they look good, right? And if you really want to see how good they look, go onto the website, eternalroofingtx.com. They have a gallery in there that they update quite often of some of the new projects, and you'll see they do tremendous work. And if you're a commercial business, you need some roofing too, they've got you covered. They can accommodate your HVAC, any other roof equipment, while ensuring minimal disruption to the operations while they install or repair your roof. Give them a call. The Montgomery area office is area code 936-215-8539. In the Hill Country, 830-251-5673. Or you can email taylor@eternalroofingtx.com. Anywhere throughout the Hill Country, Houston, the state of Texas, give Eternal Roofing a call for all your roofing needs and all your general contracting needs as well. All right, Ben, we're not going to spend as long this week previewing Kennesaw State. But in the open, we did talk a little bit about them, and you mentioned that they're doing the red shirt technique, and it's kind of the red shirting technique that Keeler used famously last year with the Bearcats. So I'm going to be very curious. Before I go to my curiosity, let me just say, I am wondering how much, because there were so many games that Keeler made sure to play the majority of his better players. I don't know if this is one of those games, but like you mentioned how they were close against Furman and they were close against some good FCS teams. I'm curious how many times they used all of their good talent together, kind of just as an example, like it was for Battle of Piney Woods last year.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't know if they redshirted to the exact extent we did. I think we were around 15-ish guys, maybe a little more. I don't know if they're at that level, and I don't know if they're just sitting out the whole season or if they're picking and choosing games to play. And another thing to consider is you might play the first 2 games of the year or play Furman or whatever, but then if you sit out for 5 weeks, it's hard to get back into game shape and be ready to play a game. So I don't know if it's really fair to guys to throw them in there for this kind of game or if they will. So Yeah, I think it's kind of up in the air. I mean, like us last year, you don't really know what to expect with this transition and the redshirt process. But yeah, hoping the Bearcats can get a win this weekend, regardless of what Kennesaw State puts on the field.
Well, yes, that would be the key. Now, here's the other thing I'm curious to see is how well they perform next year. I looked ahead at their schedule. They have San Jose State, and they have one other team scheduled there. I'd have to go back and look at their 2024 here. But San Jose State, UTSA in San Antonio. So they got two road games, UTSA, San Jose State. Not quite BYU level there, right? Not quite even Air Force level there. Let's face it, Air Force is really good this year.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be curious to see how they do with all considering that they're using this same kind of redshirt method.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, Sam Houston went 5-4 last year, and we're seeing the year we're having now. And they're a team that's really struggled with their FCS set schedule. So a little worried about what they look like. I mean, it's a team that if they recruit well, you can revitalize a team with 1 year in the portal. They hang on to some of their good guys and do well in the portal. So really have no idea what it'll look like, especially with this day and age of college football. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, it's a manageable schedule. Not going to say it's a cakewalk. San Jose State's a decent team. UTSA is pretty good. So yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what they do in year two of their transition at the FBS level.
I think it's also important to note they are 2-5 this year. Their two wins have been Tusculum and Lincoln, California. Those are not FCS schools. And while they've been close against some good ones, they have not won against FCS schools. So, Ben, comes time to lay down predictions.
Yeah,
and well, I'm going to say it first. ESPN has no line. There's no line. I looked at Vegas Insider.
Yeah.
There's no line for this game. So we've got no line, no over under to go by. So what are you basing your prediction on, Ben?
So I was going to say two teams that have both lost a lot of close games and not been able to finish. So which team is going to be able to finish? I think that's what it's going to come down to. And I think Sam Houston's going to win this one. I think the offense for us has continued to move in the right direction, set another season high in points. I think we're going to probably meet that, maybe even go a little bit above it. I'm going to say, I don't think we're going to completely blow them out, but I'm going to say a 35-20 win for Sam Houston.
Interesting. It's very, very interesting. Because you and I have nothing to base our predictions off of at all this week. Ben, Kennesaw State is bad. So is Sam Houston. They're bad. There's no other way to describe it at this point when you've lost the heartbreaking games at this. They're bad. They do have one advantage this week. That depth that has been hurting them all season will not hurt them as much here against Kennesaw. I don't know who Kennesaw is going to play. We don't know who they have. It is very likely this could be one of the games they bring all their best players. But like you said, if you sit out for 4 or 5 weeks, it's not easy to just get back out there and get going again. There's a little rust involved. Also, I'm looking and they don't score a lot of points. Their offense doesn't. They put up 28 against Furman, but they only put up 28 against Lincoln, California. I don't think they score enough to even get close in this game. I think the offense is able to do what the offense does. I'm going to go 34-10 this week is where I'm going. We're about the same on the offense, which I find very interesting. Where we differ is I don't think the Cats defense gives up that many points. I don't think Kennesaw can move the ball that much.
Yeah, and I think it might be a late touchdown to make it 20 for me. It's they don't really run the same option, the triple option that they used to. It's kind of more of a pistol option or kind of what Jacksonville State runs, really run heavy team. And we've kind of struggled against the run the last few weeks, which is kind of concerning for me, which is where I think a late touchdown might come into play. I think it's a game we should win, not have to sweat too much. You got to show up, but Yeah, 34, what did I say? 35-20, I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got 34-10. So
yeah,
that's
it could be 35-13, and that late touchdown makes it 20. But I'll stay with 35-20, and Bearcats are getting their first win. And I mean, I guess we call it our first FBS win.
no.
I don't know what to call it or what to say.
They're going to call it their first FBS win because, well, right now they're FBS, but this is not an FBS team, right? And I want to see Sam Houston beat an FBS team. There will be, if you're supposed to win this week. This is a money game. You're paying Kennesaw to come to you. You're supposed to win this game. With that said, I don't trust Sam Houston right now. I do believe that they're better. I stand by my 34-10. But if it flipped the other way around and Kennesaw scores a late touchdown to win it, I wouldn't be 100% surprised. There would be a little bit of shock to it, but there'd be a whole lot more of just ducking my head and shaking it because I wouldn't know what else to do at that point.
I know that would be an absolute disaster. And I don't think you can call it first win as an FBS program, maybe, but you've won games against FBS teams in the past. So it's not even technically your first FBS win, not even playing an FBS team. So I'm very conflicted on what to call it or what to call this win if it is a win.
You'll call it a win. And then I'm going to say, please get another one in the last 3 games so we can at least have something to actually brag about this year.
Yes. And 2 of the 3, I think you've got a shot in, but we'll get into that in the coming weeks. Got to win here first.
Definitely got to win here. Well, Ben, thank you so much, and we want to thank you to everyone listening and to everyone watching. Without you, none of this is even possible for us. Until next time, Ben, what's the winning formula to take us out with this week?
4 more points than the other team, and that's how we'll get this win.